Are you itching to play Oblivion Remastered? Because it is all over social media, on Instagram, on Reddit, and you're like, everyone's. I was telling Adam today when I was looking it up, it's like, it's alternately, whenever you look at social media, it's Clear Obscure, it's Oblivion. It's Clear Obscure, it's Oblivion. Whether it's your Google News feed or your Reddit feed or your Instagram Reels. So there's an option for you, right? It is a Game Pass. Game Pass currently is $12 a month when I looked it up. But there might be different local pricing, so please check that out. Sometimes it might be more expensive. Sometimes it might be a little bit cheaper. I've seen prices in South Africa. My brother was telling me when he first got Game Pass, it was R1 a month for like 3 months. So R1, to give you an idea, is like $2 which is less than $1 for a month, which is what he paid for like 3 months in South Africa as a special offer. So you can get Oblivion Remastered today on Game Pass for paying that monthly fee. And I mean, so if you didn't want to get it on Game Pass, it'd be $50 on Steam and your regional equivalent or whatever that is going to be. So, I mean, if you could finish Oblivion Remastered in 2 months, yeah, you'd save yourself some money. But I mean, it's been an amazing month for Game Pass, and I saw this story on a few different places where they're like, yeah, on Game Pass at the moment, you have South of Midnight, you have Oblivion Remastered, you have Clear Obscure as well. There's one more good game, which I cannot remember what it is, but it's just honestly been an amazing month for Game Pass. That if you're somebody who doesn't want to pay for games outright, or you can only buy 1 or 2 games a month, this might be a good deal. $12 a month, right, is $144 a year. I do believe in some places they do have that sort of like, if you pay for a year up front, you can shave off like $1 off the price to make it like $11 or $10 a month to pay $120 a year. Please check that out. And I mean, looking at prices right now, right, like, I mean, I paid $70 for Avowed. So with 2 premium prices games, right, you would have covered your Game Pass price. So it's definitely worth it for people. That being said, Adam's always encouraged this, and I totally agree with him that you should support the developers, because with Game Pass they do get this like lump payout. But then again, it's this video is not about arguing that what if Game Pass is actually worth it for developers. It definitely helps with exposure. But let's talk about some of the other aspects of Game Pass that I think you might not have realized. Number one is, with Game Pass, you do not get the deluxe editions or the premium deluxe editions with the extra skins or the extra DLC, right, when you get a Game Pass free. With Game Pass, you get the basic game, and that is it. Now, I'm going back to like when I got Starfield, right? I got Starfield in Game Pass, and there were bugs when Starfield came out. And Game Pass version of Starfield was the last version of Starfield to be fixed. Of course, because Bethesda being Bethesda, they fixed it first back in those days on the Bethesda launcher first, and then it went to Steam, and then it went to Game Pass, right? And because there are significantly less people on Game Pass than there are on Steam, for example, if you're looking for advice from your fellow gamers, you were sort of like left like, hey, here are these 1 million people on Game Pass, or 2 million people on Game Pass, however many it was back then. And you were relying on those guys like, how do I fix this issue? Because the layer of Game Pass and the game and the layer of Steam and the game, of course, is very different, right? It's not the same architecture. It's not the same way it's being built. So that is another downside of Game Pass, right? Is you don't get that extra content that you usually would get with buying the game, right? You don't get the support that you might get with that as well. The other side, and I think I told him this, and he was not aware, that Game Pass has a limited catalog. It's not like your Netflix, right? I saw an article about this as well. Netflix has the largest catalog out of all the streaming services, out of Hulu, out of Peacock, out of Paramount Plus, right? Out of Stan. There's a bunch of new ones that are sort of around the globe. So Game Pass is small. It's 100 games. That's the way it's always been. And I guess, this is the expense that Microsoft is paying, right? And 100 games is a lot, right? I mean, for some people who don't have a huge game collection, and it is 100 games for free that you can uninstall and reinstall and install again and play something and then reinstall it again. And these games are always shifting as well with Game Pass. So you might play something like a really, really long game like an Oblivion, for example, and you might be doing everything in Oblivion, and it might be 200-300 hours, and you might find out, unlikely with Oblivion though, because it is owned by Microsoft right now, but with other games, that 2 months down the line, yes, this game is now rotating out of Game Pass, and you've lost your progress. So you can never come back to the game unless you actually own it again in the future. So is there any other downsides of Game Pass, right? Beyond that, not much. But it's definitely something like if you do want to experience a game, if you're somebody in your 20s, right, and you're just starting off and you're living in a New York or you're living in a Boston or you're living in a London somewhere, and you know the cost of living is expensive and you're making decent money, but you're paying, you know, through the teeth in rent. I forgot what is the English expression. Game Pass is definitely an option, definitely worth it. For most games, it's gonna do. It'll be perfectly fine for you. You're probably gonna get it, especially Microsoft pushing a lot of money into Game Pass. So definitely consider it. I've been meaning to go back to Game Pass at some point, but I don't think I will, just because the backlog has become so insurmountable that there's really no reason for me to go to Game Pass ever, because I just have so much stuff to play these days. But yep, that is it. Let me know what down in the comments. Did you get Game Pass for Oblivion Remastered? I'd love to know. And then I'll see you guys in the next video.